Okay, end of the Nippon turn. These guys moved up a little bit, didn't really do much. These guys tried to charge and failed. One guy died from dangerous terrain. These guys couldn't really do anything, just moved up a little bit. The most important part, the Kitsune flank charged the Hell Pit, the ethereal, so they went straight through the other Skaven slaves there. The Oni also attacked the Hell Pit, and this was Oni were in the front charge, and the Kitsune were in the flank. Magic, though, from that point, just went nuts this turn. They cast the spell that made the Oni always strike first, so they had, even with great weapons, they struck at initiative, which was a higher initiative than the Hell Pit. So they got that. Then they also got a 12-inch bubble for devastating charge for basically all of this battle line. So the Oni just murdered the Hell Pit alone, overran into the other slaves, and helped that unit just completely destroy them too. And I just realized I did this wrong. I'm gonna have to redo that. Because the Skaven slaves were destroyed, but these models wouldn't have moved up. So they're actually back here. So I'll put them back in a second. Because you can't overrun because it was not the first turn of combat. I got excited there. Anyways, the only bad thing, but expected, the one Ronin who was still here died. So now they're going to be able to flank charge. These guys probably shouldn't have overrun, but I overran in order to keep them, or in order to let these models overrun into the Skaven slaves. But now that I know that they're not allowed to do that because it wasn't the first round of combat, I think I'm going to change that and restore the game so that these guys are actually back here and these guys are 6 inches back around here. So my apologies for that. Yeah, that makes more sense. So I'll do that, then Skaven turn 1. Or turn 3, turn 4. And into the Skaven turn. Not that much happened. Pretty unfortunately, actually. It looks like they didn't even move at all. The giant rats charged the samurai cavalry here. The cavalry actually killed the giant rats, failed to overrun the surviving packmaster. This part here was really sad. The Screaming Bell and Storm Vermin unit charged the Kitsune, who fled and ended up fleeing right through them. They tried to redirect into the Oni. They failed the charge by 1 inch. Similarly, the Plague Monks tried to flank charge these guys. They failed actually by a few inches. It was a really bad roll. The other charge were these slaves up against the cavalry. They also failed. They weren't very difficult charges, but it was just some pretty bad luck. Magic didn't really see much happen, except that one of the Oni died. And that's about it, really. Kind of an unfortunate turn. Now it's the Nippon turn. So, end of Nippon turn 4, and they're doing very well. Skaven slaves were taken out, and basically the entire artillery line is gone. Samurai cavalry overran in both sides to charge into the last Plague Claw. The Jezzails stood and shot against the dragon, didn't do any damage. The Screaming Bell actually gave the Jezzails an extra +1 attack in combat, but only one of them managed to actually have any attacks at all because of initiative. And that's about it. I don't know what's gonna happen now. we'll see. Because both of the huge Skaven Death Stars are just unbreakable, so the good strategy at this point for Nippon is just to avoid everything. But there's so much magical damage that can still be done. Might be hard to do. Anyway, we'll see. Skaven turn. And a Skaven turn 4. The Warp Lightning Cannon got destroyed by the Samurai Cavalry flanking it on either side. Just from wounds, actually. The only important thing was that the Storm Vermin now have poisoned attacks, and they've moved to at least have some viable position to go up against the entire Nippon army. Who's gonna win? Just debating whether or not it's worth charging it right now. It might not be, even with a flank charge on the general and a rear charge with a 5 Samurai Cavalry in the back. So, good and bad news for both sides. Nippon's turn went pretty well. Lots of charges. The fast cavalry decided to, instead of charge, because they had such a huge unit footprint and would have easily been countercharged, decided to kind of hold up here and either be charged or flank charge these guys when they charge. And instead the Kitsune and Oni Dragon, General, and 2 units of the Archer Cavalry Samurai came in. These guys had poisoned attacks. It definitely helped. It managed to kill the Kirin that the General was riding. But a huge benefit was magic, the Irresistible Force 6th spell, so again for half the units in combat they had devastating charge. The Oni, only 2 of them managed to attack because they were still always striking last, but they knocked half the wounds off of the Screaming Bell. Not enough to break the Unbreakable, but that's okay. So this unit's in trouble for sure. However, the Plague Monks now have the option of charging. Maybe flank charging, haven't worked that out yet. And so everything is still kind of in the balance. This is when you need that Ronin to just be right here. But, oh well. Of course, they could have blocked the charge. But it's a good amount of points to waste, and I wasn't so sure of that. So anyway, Skaven turn 5, I think it is. Alright, end of Skaven turn 5. The Plague Monks ended up charging into the combat right here. However, the toughness test they caused from the Plague Sensor and the other thing, that there's 2 rounds of toughness tests that they cause anyways. It killed both of the Kitsune before the Plague Monks were actually able to attack and deal any more damage. And based on the way the models are in combat, they can't actually continue into this combat, so they're just kind of stuck here outside of combat. The Oni died before they were able to attack. No more wounds were able to be done to the Screaming Bell. So it's still at 3 wounds. There are only 5 Storm Vermin left, plus the Battle Standard. So the unit's looking pretty bad, but they're unbreakable. And that's about it. Magic, I forget what magic was doing. He was trying to cause some wounds on the Kitsune. I think it did 2 wounds. And everything else was dispelled. The important stuff anyways. So, yeah. Big empty spaces in the Nippon army, but they can still do a good amount of damage. Who knows? We shall see. End of turn 5, and the entire Storm Vermin unit is gone. However, the Screaming Bell still has 3 wounds. Gracier and Battle Standard are fine. The Plague Furnace was rear charged by the cavalry and flank charged by 9 ninjas and 1 Ronin, and they all died. The Ronin well, the first two fled. The Ronin died in combat. So the other two were overrun, and now I no idea about the points right now. The dragon is now out of combat based on the number of models that died, and we'll see where it goes. One last turn to clear things up. And into the Skaven turn. Bad news for Nippon. Skaven Battle Standard declared a challenge with the Nippon Battle Standard and slaughtered her. So that plus a bunch of wounds done by the Rat Ogre on the Screaming Bell actually caused enough damage for the general and the last remaining Samurai Cavalry to flee. The Samurai Cavalry died from being overrun. The general survived by 1 inch. So at least he's there and has a chance to rally. And Nippon has a chance on their last turn to flank charge, but they still need to destroy the Screaming Bell to have any chance of taking them down. We'll see what happens.